Long maps in Osu tend to become rhythm game eye candy if the map garners enough traction from top players. There's an inherent attraction when watching a player try to score well in these types of maps, whether it's the atmosphere or tone of the song, the intensity of the map itself, or a combination of the two. It's an exhilarating yet nerve-wracking experience watching these types of plays, especially in the case when a player is on the brink of making history. While these emotions can be articulated fairly easily from the mind of a spectator, it's almost impossible to discern or quantify what a top player is truly going through when they're put in such a stressful situation. The map in question today is perhaps one of the most unique in the entire game of Osu, and its history is quite frankly even more convoluted. This is the score progression of the Unforgiving. The Unforgiving is a map submitted by a user named Armin on April 20th, 2011. The map was released to commemorate one of Armin's favorite bands that had released their newest album at the time, which was called The Unforgiving by symphonic metal outfit Within Temptation. This was a marathon map, meaning that its length was expected to be fairly long. These maps can range anywhere from around 5 or 6 to even 20 minutes. This wasn't a map of highlights of the album or a few songs from the album. This map would be the entire album, virtually uninterrupted, 52 minutes and 58 seconds of good old circle clicking. Community members were certainly surprised a map of this caliber was even created, but nevertheless they were all on board with creating maps for each individual song and assisting with mods to help it become what it is today. Eventually it would be ranked on September 10th, 2012, and players could finally get underway with figuring out how to tackle this Goliath of a marathon. Since this map's creation began in 2011, you can expect to see lots of linear patterns, interesting slider shapes, and arbitrarily used spinners. In terms of raw speed or any sort of sections that are complete outliers, there really isn't anything in isolation that stands out as something that would be daunting or particularly chokeable to top players, even as early as 2011 or 2012. In the Middle of the Night is one of the more standout tracks as it's decently fast with a few jumps and 1/4 note bursts, but it's very early on in the marathon, so it's not the biggest issue in the world if you're trying to FC it. Iron's another track that's a bit difficult as well, with its barrage of sliders and space streams, along with a few 1/6 bursts to spice things up. Lastly, A Demon's Fate shows up as one of the last tracks in the marathon and one of the most difficult, especially on an FC run. Its combination of awkward, asymmetric patterns on top of all the streams you have to do throughout make this a nightmare with nerves. Other than that, it's a very tedious grind through a plethora of 3 to 4 star maps that you really can't afford to lose your focus on. While a lot of the difficulty is centered around pretty simple patterns that don't jump around too much or get very dense, there's a really unique environment this map brings to the table due to its obscene length combined with its mediocre speed. There's no doubt that for 99.9% of players, it's very easy to get nervous on personal goals of really any genre. Whether it's your first 7-star, Marathon FC, PP goal, etc., it's a feeling that can be very difficult to control. However, it's an even more fascinating scenario to entertain where top players could be shaking during potentially 2 to 3-star difficulty sections, especially since the last song of The Unforgiving is pretty slow. Whether or not we will see this happen is for you to think about for now. But enough hypotheticals. Let's get into who kicked off the first scores of this map. It's no surprise that players were itching to get their foot in the door when this map was first ranked, and someone managed to get a pretty respectable score just a few months after the map's release. On December 1st, 2012, a player by the name of None had posted a 4-miss score with a 95.37%. Then on July 7th, 2013, player Wubwolf set the bar extremely high and blew None's score out of the water with a 99.81% FC. A score of this caliber on a map like this at the time was pretty unexpected to say the least, and this FC would actually inspire another player to follow up with an FC of their own not long after, as Juan would pull off the second FC with a 99.36% on July 26, 2013. With a couple FCs on the leaderboards already, the community over the next year or two saw it fit that the map needed an FC with a mod of some sort that would allow for the next #1 score, as Wubwolf's accuracy set the bar so high that no one really wanted to contest it. Would people use the hidden mod? Maybe, but hidden on a map this long could be extremely hard to focus on, especially with the lower AR. Hard Rock can also be an option too, as it would incentivize players to stay more engaged mentally with the map due to the higher and more familiar AR, but then the map would be more difficult in just about every other aspect then. What about Flashlight or Double Time? Probably not the most realistic. The rest of the mods were pointless to use since they didn't give any score multipliers, so those were rolled out too. One player eventually buckled down and decided to attempt an FC on Hard Rock, and this player would be Rohulk on September 22nd, 2015. Rohulk's Hard Rock run was going very solid going into the last song, Stairway to the Skies, a very slow yet epic ending with its soaring vocals that go along to these long sliders and 1/2 notes across the screen. Given how easy the last map was, it should be home free for Rohulk, right? Rohulk would end up missing a straight 3-note sequence, where his cursor went right over the second note, choking just a bit over 200 notes from the end. Looking at the more steady parts of the map to check for any cursor shaking, this didn't seem like a case of nerves, rather a case of perhaps being too comfortable or just a genuine reading mistake. No matter how good of a player you are, you can never be too comfortable with a map, especially on a mod like Hard Rock and on a map like the Unforgiving. After a full year, Rohulk's score still had yet to be contested, and there weren't really any other players bothering with any other mods either. While a score like this can be motivating for other players to beat it, it can also deter players at the same time if they're too scared to potentially embrace such a heartbreaking choke that Rohulk did. Eventually, a player by the name of Adam QS decided to go for the first Hard Rock FC, but not just with Hard Rock, as he would throw the hidden mod on alongside. Unfortunately, Adam would be just shy of missing the FC by 1 note on October 3rd, 2016. Assuming his combo started from the beginning of the song, it would have happened on this slider right here. No one could seem to close out the FC on Hard Rock, and Adam QS couldn't seem to do it with Hidden and Hard Rock. And with 2 players already failing to do so, the amount of players that were capable of doing this were becoming fairly limited. On March 11th, 2017 though, another player had something completely different in mind, and it involved using a mod no one had ever thought to use before. A player by the name of Dawn's Day passed the Unforgiving with the mod Flashlight. The Flashlight mod is revered as one of the most unique mods in Osu, and many would agree that it's the most difficult one to use as well. It restricts your gameplay screen to only a small circle, along with a few other quirks. After 100 combo, it goes to about 80% of the original Flashlight circle, then after 200 combo, it becomes 60%, and then it stagnates there until you break combo. It also gets darker during slider sections, and the circle lags slightly behind your cursor. Regarding the sliders, you can actually increase what's called your gamma to counteract the darker sliders. There are lots of technical definitions for this, but to simplify, increasing gamma is basically a way to enhance the overall brightness of an image. Higher gamma makes it easier to see sliders in Flashlight, and lower gamma makes them much more difficult to see. If a player wants to practice a Flashlight map properly, or rather a certain section, they can use what's called a buzzer to get up to 200 combo right away, since this will accurately emulate their playing situation, and they won't have to start out with the default Flashlight area. Regarding Dawn's Day's score, it just seemed like a one-off type of deal, and the community just moved on with their day after giving it some praise. But nonetheless, an impressive score that really no one was expecting. Not long after this score, Adam QS would finally end up redeeming himself with the first ever hidden Hard Rock FC on May 24th, 2017. It seemed like the Unforgiving was starting to pick up some momentum and innovation regarding different types of scores. With a hidden Hard Rock FC officially on the leaderboards though, the only way players could possibly beat this score was by beating Adam QS's accuracy with hidden Hard Rock, along with an FC. On July 26th, 2017, Wubblewolf was streaming an attempt on the marathon, and he managed to get the new #1 score with hidden Hard Rock, getting a 98.57% FC. The entire VOD isn't available, but from what we can gather during the last few minutes, it's probably a safe bet to say that he sang through the entire 50 minutes, in case you were curious about that.
Can I calm down right now? Oh, I cannot, Alice. Right now, I cannot calm down. Oh, that was some wow. Thanks for the wow.
By 2018, it was pretty clear that the general trend of the Unforgiving was that a new top score or two would pop out, and that was pretty much it. The map was also now at the point where the bar was raised so high that subtle improvements to the hidden hard rock scores were the only viable way of a player marking their territory as a top dog in the marathon. Donsay would post a very unique and huge improvement from his flashlight score in 2017, with a hidden flashlight pass with 93.71% on July 13, 2018. Then out of nowhere the month after, player Beidou got single-digit misses with double time, with 9 misses and 98.01% on August 15, 2018. The bulk of his misses would understandably be on In the Middle of the Night, and then FC'd almost the rest of the entire marathon, closing out with over a 5,000 combo. 2019 would be one of the less active years for the map, but this doesn't mean it didn't result in one of the most unique scores to date, as on February 24, 2019, player Fire would get the first ever 3-mod pass with an 81.54%, using Hidden, Double Time, and Hard Rock. As for the last score of 2019 on this map, player American Penguin would take the #1 score for the first time in almost 2 years with a 99.15% Hidden Hard Rock FC on May 5th, 2019. As the game was evolving and players were improving wildly, there were a lot more unique scores popping up with the Unforgiving, albeit these scores were still pretty rare due to the nature of the map, but who knows where it could go at this point. It wouldn't be another full year until a new notable score was set on the map, where Kingling would set the new #1 score on June 21st, 2020, getting a hidden Hard Rock FC with 99.38%. A few months before this though, there was a player that on a whim decided to set out on one of the most intense journeys in this game's history and was going to do whatever it took to get to his end goal. This player was Etienne. Etienne is a flashlight mod specialist that had over 100 #1s by early 2020 and was a decent player in general outside of that too. His knack for 3 or 4 mod flashlight scores made him a fairly standout player in the Osu landscape. On January 29, 2020, Etienne posted 2 screenshots on Twitter where he FC'd 2 of the songs from the Unforgiving on flashlight, Shot in the Dark and Faster. If you haven't guessed yet from the screenshots or the Twitter caption, Etienne was thinking about attempting to FC the entire Unforgiving album with flashlight. First, he wanted to FC all the songs individually, and then who knows how well full runs will play out. This was such a monumental task to take on for any player, but Etienne was confident in his abilities with the mod to have a chance at the full album FC if he managed to build a base by FCing all 12 of the songs individually. Throughout the months, Etienne was able to continually FC the songs one by one, getting a new score every few weeks. By June 1st, 2020, he had managed to FC In the Middle of the Night and officially had FC'd every single song on flashlight. During these months though, there was another player that also decided to join along, and he was no stranger to flashlight plays or really any insane feats of memorization or reading. This player went by the name of Etienne. Etienne, or known on YouTube as Isakvik, has cemented himself at this point as one of the most intriguing and unique players to ever play this game. His obsession and expertise with the easy and flashlight mods, super convoluted and gimmicky maps, along with his generally strong fundamentals, allowed him to become a staple in the Osu player landscape, riding off of scores like Osu Stream Compilation Flashlight FC, Shotgun Symphony FC, Banned Forever Hidden Flashlight #1, and a Notch Hell Flashlight #1. It wouldn't be too surprising that Etienne would want to attempt such a feat of endurance like FCing the Unforgiving with flashlight. Etienne's progress was astounding to put it lightly. His first flashlight FC would be a double S on In the Middle of the Night, and then from there he was just banging them out one by one. By April 9th, 2020, just a couple weeks after his In the Middle of the Night FC, Etienne had all the songs from the Unforgiving FC'd now. The question was whether or not Etienne was going to follow through with full runs of the song or not. And after a few months, there wouldn't really be any updates or scores from Etienne regarding full runs. At least, nothing that has been documented. Etienne, however, had just finished FCing all the maps in the beginning of June 2020, and a few weeks later would make an update post regarding the viability of FCing the marathon. He states that an Unforgiving FC is possible, but that it would take anywhere from a couple weeks to a few months. While this post notes near the end that his time would be very limited to play, Lancian would end up doing this just 5 days later. Lancian had gotten just 5 misses on the Unforgiving with Flashlight, 398 PP, 5 misses, a new top play, and a crazy 3000 combo to go along with it too. This score was a massive step forward for the map that almost no one saw coming. If Lancian could clean up his misses and nab the FC, it would beat his top play by over double the PP, meaning that he could potentially get a 1000 PP score out of this with the right accuracy. You might be wondering how in the world you can get a 1000 PP score out of a 5.35 star map. Since Flashlight is such an aim-heavy mod combined with its sheer length, at least according to PP calculators, the amount of PP you get slowly builds up throughout the song to the point where you can just barely squeak out a 1k PP score, assuming your accuracy stays fairly high. Sadly, we wouldn't end up seeing any activity on this map from Lancian again, and Gian hadn't been seeking out any interest too. No one on the leaderboards at the time was even close either, so this more or less meant the map was going to have to sit in silence for a while, until perhaps another Flashlight aficionado took the stage, or maybe even a double-time player to shake things up. As 2020 came to a close though, 2021 wanted to open up with something that would surely get some players interested. On January 2nd, 2021, a Twitter user by the name of SkillOsu made a post stating that there is a bounty for the Unforgiving. This bounty would be $350 from Wolfie69G to the first person who can FC the Unforgiving using the Flashlight mod. This was a bounty that, while not entirely unrealistic, would still be incredibly difficult given you more or less need to memorize the general location of the 9,000 plus notes in the marathon. Luckily, the marathon comes with a set of maps that are all the songs individually, and the community already has 2 players at their disposal who are very well versed in these songs. Lancian was close, but he hasn't posted a score since, and Gian hasn't posted any progress on the map either, even after the bounty had been announced for a few weeks. The bounty was eventually updated again on January 31st, 2021, where a user named Mr. Mindwaves donated an extra $377 on top of Wolfie69G's initial $350, making the bounty a total of $727. This would end up igniting some sort of reaction from GN, because for the first time in almost a year, he was back to the Unforgiving with a motive in mind. As we've said before, GN had all the maps from the Unforgiving down, back in 2020 at least. Starting from around late January and early February, he had to relearn all the songs since it had been so long since he played them on Flashlight that often. So he revisited an old journey and decided to see where it would take him. It seemed like Gian's memory was coming back extremely quickly, as day after day, he would re-FC map after map again, and by March 8th, 2021, you can see this block of text go from relearning all songs to relearned all songs. With all the songs now re-FC'd, what was the best way to truly test out his progress? For GN, it was just to run it all at once and see what happens.
Oh man. One single slider break. This very slider, because I undershot it. I am about here. I This was not a very good representation of what the real run is gonna look like. But I have a very good feeling for the difficulty now.
On March 9th, 2021, GN had gotten the first ever flashlight S on the Unforgiving. Unfortunately, an S doesn't mean he got a full combo, as shown by the combo here and the slider break, but since it happened so early and he didn't slider break anywhere else, he was able to build up a high enough combo to get 773 PP out of it. This score garnered the attention of tens of thousands of people immediately, as it blew up on Reddit, Twitter, and got some notable traction on YouTube as well. On his first full run attempt ever, he was already on the brink of pulling off one of the most historical scores in all of Osu. The following day wasn't quite as emphatic as the immediate slider break SGN was able to get right off the bat, but now he had more people than ever behind him since they saw how much potential there was. The constant recitation of the lyrics, motivational messages, the community had not been this excited for a score in a while, and they were letting it all out to motivate GN to bring it all home. He still managed to get some kind of run going that day, where he got a 4K combo, but would blunder a pattern during the song Iron. Instead of doing more full runs, GN decided to go back to do some more lab work and buff out the slight inconsistencies he was facing with certain maps. With his slider break S, he was able to get a taste on what it's like to be on such a run for the map, so now he had some data to work with. A week later, GN had a run past Iron. In fact, he had a run past a lot of songs. Where's the Edge, Sinead, Lost, Murder, A Demon's Fate. He was on cruise control, and there was no reason for him to turn it off at this point. With Stairway to the Skies, the last song of the marathon coming in, the chat was going ballistic at this point. All that was separating GN from achieving this feat was a 3-star map, and given he has a double-time flashlight FC on it, it was pretty much game over for the Unforgiving, and for history to be finally made.
That kind of sucks. That's the worst joke in the world. I'm not playing this again tonight. I will definitely come back to this.
GN would end up misreading a pattern where he saw the 5 circle first before the 4, which would end up costing him the run just a couple hundred notes from the FC. This choke was absolutely gut-wrenching to witness while it was happening, and couldn't have been a tougher pill to swallow for GN. There's just so much limitation with your ability to only see a fraction of the screen, and when you're that nervous, it can be so difficult to recollect your thoughts and remember everything you've learned in the heat of the moment, combined with how anxiety-inducing it is given how little of the screen you have at your disposal. GN still managed to get 969 PP out of this score, which was almost 300 PP more than his previous top play. But GN wasn't looking for that. He was looking for the FC. He took a few days off to recollect his thoughts and de-stress, maybe do some practice offline, or perhaps take a day or two to simply let his mind rest. It can always be a tricky scenario to determine whether or not you need more practice with the actual map, or you need to take a day or two off to gain a better sense of clarity. Whatever GN was doing for those past few days, he came back more focused than ever. Past in the middle of the night, past Iron, past everything again, and he would be once again met with the very last song. GN knew he was on the verge of a 1000 PP score with his accuracy, and also on the verge of one of the most historical Osu scores ever. He was in this boat before, but the real question was, would he finally end up at the right destination this time?
I am so happy. I am so happy. It is over. It is finally done. Oh, holy Christ. The grind is over. The grind is over. I should hit the fucking split. There it is. Sub 91. Let's see if someone can beat that.
On March 22nd, 2021, GN had actually done it. The Unforgiving, FC'd with the flashlight mod, 1011 PP, all the praise in the world, and yet another score to add onto GN's already absurd resume of one-of-a-kind reading and memorization scores. The score immediately blew up on YouTube, Twitter, and even gained the #1 spot on r/Osu game. Time and time again, players still manage to push the boundaries in the most unique ways possible, and no matter who says it isn't doable, sometimes you have to remember that you yourself can be that person to prove them wrong. People have been questioning now whether or not this is the best Osu score ever. Personally, I think the score needs a bit of time to age, and for everyone to properly process the absolute bewilderment the score caused upon everyone. But I think it's no question at all that it's certainly up there with the grades. I'd like to give a final nod to the legend GN himself by using the song he used to celebrate his FC in this video, and perhaps summoning Salt as well. But most importantly, a nod to all of you for witnessing one of the most historical moments in all of Osu. This has been the score progression of the Unforgiving, and thanks for watching. Big thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel, and if you want to see more rhythm game documentaries like this, go ahead and check out my Patreon. Drop a sub if you're new here too, and check out my other links below. I'll see you on whatever video I upload next, and take care.